Eric, welcome to the Bitcoin Source. Can we start things off by having you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for having me. My name's Eric Podwojski. I've been in Bitcoin for the last, I'd say, 5, 6 years now, getting in 2017, and went full time into Bitcoin, I'd say, the last couple of years, working for Bitcoin Magazine, starting a little education company. And now, as of today, actually, we launched Bitcoin Talent Co. And Bitcoin Talent Co. is a recruiting firm for Bitcoin companies outside the Bitcoin industry and inside the Bitcoin industry. When you get Bitcoin jobs, we're the source for that.
Nice, nice. Thank you, Eric, for that introduction. And we're definitely going to get into Bitcoin talent. But before we do, I love to really learn how people source their Bitcoin knowledge. So if there's any like books, people, or even courses in the ecosystem that might have inspired you way back in 2017, could you kind of give a brief story on that?
Yeah, sure. So I would say right around that time, the Bitcoin standard came out, and that's one of the first things I really dove into. Still not really understanding Bitcoin yet, but for me, it was someone analogized Bitcoin to like technology as in like creating fire. And I was like, wait, if it's that important as man using fire, I got to look into this more. So yeah, I just started down the rabbit hole, reading books. The Bitcoin standard, like I said, was definitely one of the best. And then the Bitcoin Twitter community really just posting resources. Gigi was one of my favorites, still is one of my favorites, and he has like a wealth of knowledge related to Bitcoin. Yeah, there's just so many resources out there nowadays. Breedlove's another one. So
Yes. Yeah, Breedlove's one of my favorites as well. You know, he really has a lot of long form articles, and just if you really want to go down the philosophy rabbit hole, I always, suggest people dig into Breedlove for sure. But Eric, I really want to dig into just this Bitcoin jobs market that you're kind of, jumping into, and you're going to end up, changing the whole entire industry. I have a good feeling about it. Um, my question to you, Eric, is, what do you think about the recent trends of companies advertising for Bitcoin jobs?
yeah, sure. So let's take a step back and think about the whole industry in general. So you had cryptocurrencies, and then I'd say around 2017, 2018, there started to be a distinction between Bitcoin and crypto in general. Bitcoin companies realize, hey, we need to kind of like dissociate ourselves with the rest of this noise and focus on the signal, which is Bitcoin. And along with that comes the Bitcoin community. So you think of Bitcoiners, people that are maybe not maximalists, just solely focused on Bitcoin, and they are a different breed of humans, very mission driven, hard workers, and they get things done. So they might not have the expertise for a specific role, but I think that the mission driven part really makes them killers in the job industry.
We've talked about this, before we got on the show, and it's just I'm super passionate about this. And when I heard about what you're building and what you're doing and just your story overall, your, overcoming sickness and having triumph and having Bitcoin be something that really like changed your life. I've always been just super curious to know like, how do we like hijack the Bitcoin ecosystem where you can have a streamless pool of talent coming in to just make this whole entire protocol better? So when I heard that you were building Bitcoin talent, it was just like a no-brainer for me. I definitely had to talk to you and pick your brain on, you being one of the first people I've seen outside of like, Bitcoiner jobs and some of the other ones that are out there that's kind of taking this different approach to hiring talent in the Bitcoin ecosystem. And do you think that Bitcoin talent is a good way to legitimize Bitcoin in the eyes of the public?
Yeah, 100%. So you got to think about this. There's a ton of talent outside the Bitcoin industry. So think of someone working at Google. Maybe it's an executive or someone higher up, right? Just starting to understand Bitcoin and see that it's a revolutionary type of technology. So someone like that, how do we bring them into the industry? How do we train them up in a way like give them the right information? Try not to let them go down the crypto rabbit hole and get wreck trading and all that stuff. Keep them focused on Bitcoin. So I see it as we're providing resources for those people who come into the industry, get hired by the best Bitcoin companies, work in the best teams, and then they're going to tell their friends. So once you start getting more and more legitimate people outside the industry into the industry, and these stories become known, I think it's just going to keep snowballing into a bigger and bigger industry.
What I find very profound and interesting is like the Bitcoin ethos, a lot of times when people are getting into this ecosystem and they want to build or they want to create things, people always tell you like you have to have a proof of work. You have to prove that you've done something in this space to kind of be recognized. And before you know it, I know Tomer Strolight talks about this a lot. Before you know it, next thing you know, Bitcoin is paying you to help keep it, more efficient. I just want to really know like how important is it having a network of proof of work in the Bitcoin ecosystem before you start looking for a job?
100%. I preach this all the time. So the idea of a proof of work project is really you coming into the industry saying, I don't really know what I want to do. I don't really know where my skills lay. Let me just start creating stuff, building stuff. So that's exactly what I did. I came up with a Bitcoin education company called Bitcoin EDU. I put together a couple different like passive Bitcoin courses and even held like cohorts. So live classes, people can come in and learn about it. So providing resources, providing education, things along those lines really, I guess, establish myself in this industry. And then from there, Twitter and LinkedIn is such a great networking tool. So starting from a couple of years ago, I got serious about it. And I was like, I'm just going to start DMing people, talking to people, and reaching out to people in the industry, letting them know I'm here and I want to help. So over time, I really built up my network, and now I say it's flourishing. So that's the whole idea: is start a proof of work project, go through the steps, make sure you show people that you're putting in the work, helping Bitcoin in whatever capacity you could do it. So it could be podcast, writing about it, anything really. If you can code, sure. Build an app, build a website, all that stuff. And then eventually people start recognizing you for what you're doing. And from there, yeah, you're just full time in the Bitcoin industry like me.
Yeah, and I love that you kind of mentioned like all the different skill sets that people could possibly have, because I know like a lot of people might search for Bitcoin jobs and they might feel like they have to be, this very proficient software engineer that only knows C++ or how to work on Bitcoin Core. But there's so many other avenues that you can go in for becoming a quote unquote Bitcoiner. And like you said, Eric, podcasting, educating people, creating content, that's a brilliant way for you to get into the industry and really make your stamp in the industry, because everybody has a different perspective on what Bitcoin exactly is, and that's what makes it so beautiful. And I always wanted to know from you, Eric, personally, like what are your thoughts on the current job market for Bitcoin right now? With the price starting to go back up, and we had a downtrend for a few months. Like, what is your thoughts on the current trend of the market at the moment?
Yeah, sure. So obviously we're in a bear market, but Bitcoin companies are still hiring like crazy. And I think I did a little research on this like a couple months ago. There's over like 500 Bitcoin focused companies out there nowadays. And if you go on a company or on a website like Bitcoin or Jobs, it's a job board for Bitcoin only companies, you can see all the job postings. There definitely are quite a lot, and there's new ones coming every day. And I'm happy to announce we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be providing a resource listing out all the jobs we're hiring for and we're not hiring for that are just available in the industry through Bitcoin Talent Co. So right now, there's definitely still jobs available, and there's going to be a lot more once the bull market returns.
Most definitely. And, Eric, like I was thinking about it, like when I look at Bitcoiner jobs or some of these other Bitcoin search models that they have out there, anytime I see someone creating something new, such as Bitcoin Talent, I'm always hungry to know, like, well, what is going to differentiate, this from all the other different Bitcoiner job search sites that are out there. So, like, could you kind of give people a little peer into like your business acumen of like, what are you trying to do to make this, kind of really stick out from all the other ones that we're seeing currently in the market?
Sure, yeah. So it's not just a job board. What we really do is the outbound search. So we're actively reaching out to people within the industry and outside the industry saying, hey, come work for this company we partnered with.
Yep.
So we're filling jobs for companies. And on the flip side, we're helping Bitcoiners get jobs. So providing educational resources, what should my resume look like? Do you have templates I could use? What are the steps to network that we were talking about before? How do I get my foot in the door?
Yep.
Bunch of resources like that. And then I guess the last thing would be advisory services. So think about all of these Bitcoin startups, right? They're focused on building their products and services. They're not necessarily completely focused on taking a startup from a couple employees to 100 employees plus. So we have a team of advisors like Marty Bent, Sahil, Justine Harper,
Yep.
CK from Bitcoin Magazine, and Rockstar Dev. We have all of these killers in the industry that are going to help provide advisory service with us so we can take Bitcoin companies basically from 0 to 1.
Most definitely. And I love to hear that team. That team is a powerhouse right there. Like, shout out to CK. That's one of my favorite people.
CK's the man.
Yeah, CK's the man. So I'm grateful to hear that. I'll definitely be looking into it, and I'll be passing it along to other people that are curious about trying to get a job in Bitcoin. But Eric, there was one thing that I did want to talk about that kind of doesn't have anything really to do with Bitcoin Talent Co., but it's more about your story, your journey that I've kind of read and looked over. And do you believe your near-death experience pushed you to make a career in Bitcoin more ubiquitous for everybody?
Yeah, I guess let's rewind real quick. So, like I said, 2017, I was at Penn State University, and there was a blockchain club, and I was like, interesting. This is when the price of Bitcoin's going up. So I was like, okay, I'll go to it. Started going to a couple different meetups at my school. They were shilling mostly altcoins, Ethereum primarily. So I actually went down the shitcoin trading route and got wrecked. So all my beer money for the bars at the time at school was gone, and I had to stay inside and watch all my funds go to zero. But that made me realize, okay, there's probably a difference between Bitcoin and crypto. So, like I said, I read the Bitcoin Standard after that. Really started diving down the rabbit hole of just Bitcoin only. And then over the years, I realized how much potential there is in this industry. And also, I was working for an engineering job that I honestly just hated. Like, just to give you some context, the VP of the office that I was working at made a rule that you couldn't get up out of your seat and talk to another coworker for more than 5-10 minutes. He's like, or you can't charge, like, we can't pay you for that. So they're just saying, basically, sit down, shut up, sit in your cubicle, do your work, head down. And I was like, this is not the life I want to live. There's so much more to life. And so I have Bitcoin, from the side here poking at me saying, hey, come work over here. So I decided basically to quit my job. And from there, I actually had a near-death experience right after that. So I have Crohn's disease, and I had to get rushed to the hospital. Let's just put it this way. I wasn't able to go to the bathroom for like over a month, right? And so they had to do emergency surgery, cope my stomach, and do all this stuff. A couple months later, I'm healed up, ready to go again. And I'm like, all right, I have a whole new lookout in life. I just survived death, so I feel like unstoppable in a way. And I was like, let's make an impact in this world. So that's when I really started diving down Bitcoin only, Bitcoin career. And from there, just taking the mentality, proof of work, putting myself out there, networking as much as I can, eventually landed me a job with Bitcoin Magazine. So I was there for the past year, working on the Bitcoin conference and the media side of things with Bitcoin Magazine. Learned a ton, worked with awesome coworkers that were the best. Like every day I got so pumped up to work with them, hop on Slack and say, hey, what's up? What are you guys doing today? Let's talk about Bitcoin. And then, from there, more recently, I actually got laid off. So end of November, early December, Bitcoin Talent Co. was starting to take roots, but there wasn't really much to it yet. And so I said, okay, screw it. I'm going to go full time into Bitcoin Talent Co. now and build up this company. So me, along with my other two co-founders, Andy Thompson and Michael Tanguma, we created this thing, and now it's officially here.
Nice. And I'm super excited for it. I can't wait to really dig in and learn as much as I can about the company. But before we wrap, Eric, my last question to you is, what is your call to action to people out there in the Bitcoin ecosystem that want to either build a company or are just looking for a job in the Bitcoin ecosystem and they don't really know like where to start?
Yeah, sure. So I will be providing a ton of resources for Bitcoiners looking to get into the Bitcoin industry. So to do that, sign up for our newsletter. If you go to bitcointalent.co, there's a link to the newsletter. It'll be weekly or bi-weekly, just like I said, tips and all that kind of stuff. Another thing for Bitcoiners is we have a place where you can submit your resume and some additional information into our talent pool. So if you go to bitcointalent.co as well, you'll see an option to submit your resume. And that's the first place we look when we're looking to hire for roles. So submitting your resume there will increase your chances of getting a Bitcoin job, at least an interview. So from there, we got Bitcoin companies then as well. So Bitcoin companies can go to bitcointalent.co as well, and you'll see an option for to get in touch with us. And then you can just talk with me or some of my other teammates, and we can let you know how we can help you hire up your team or provide those advisory services.
Nice. I appreciate that, Eric. And I hope people really absorb that information and utilize it because, Bitcoin is for everybody. And this is an industry that's just getting started. And there's so much talent. There's so many opportunities. You have people like Eric in this ecosystem that are really about helping people, kind of arbitrage and use their skill sets to make their lives better through Bitcoin. So I appreciate it, Eric. Before we leave, can you give people your social media handles and any last words before the interview ends?
Yeah, sure. I post a lot on Twitter, so follow me at epodrules, at EPODRULZ, and you can find me on LinkedIn too. Just search Eric Podwojski; it'll come up. My last thing would be to, I guess, don't settle in your career. So, like me, don't think you have to live a life that's boring and dull and just not excited to work up on Monday, excited for work. You can make a change in your life, and to do that, you got to start with the proof of work project and network in the Bitcoin industry. Apply through Bitcoin Talent Gal, and then let's go full time.
Nice. Once again, Eric, thank you for taking time to be on the Bitcoin Source. Have a good one.
You too, man. Thank you so much.